these are some of the changes that we made in these communities that I never forget. And I remember living there. I left a mark in most of these communities. They call me the captain. And when I get there, they shout, "Captain! Captain!" And then I respond. It's something that I always encourage the youth, that whilst you are going, you should be able to inspire people. You should be able to leave a mark in people. Any little thing that you are doing, you should be able to make sure that when you are not there, people are able to mention your name and track it. Yeah. So that's the story.
A friend of mine once said, people who have nothing to say are the ones doing the most talking. It's time we hear from those who have something meaningful to tell us. Today, we are joined in the studio by Mr. Daniel Arthur-Bentum on the topic exceptional leadership. We are highlighting inspirational leaders in communities. We hope his story impacts you. So please, thank you so much for joining us. Do you mind sharing with us your name, what do you do, and where you're from?
Thank you very much. As you mentioned, my name is Daniel Arthur-Bentum. I currently work with AngloGold Ashanti as the Sustainability Superintendent in charge of economic development. And then I've been doing this for like 4 years. But before that, I've worked in a number of organizations trying to make changes in communities and the environment that we live in. So that's me.
Wow, I love the word you said, or should I say the sentence, inspiring changes in communities. I would love to know, what were some of those works you were doing in communities?
So yes, right from the start of my career, I happened to start with some ASM mines who were doing things that were not favorable to the environment. So when I went inside, I was like, probably I've graduated from university, I have all these degrees. The best thing I could do is to support these artisanal mines to make it a world class. So we started working on environmental safety. We're looking at how these women who would come to these mining areas with their babies, how we can even get a school, a crèche for them. And that inspired me to start this community development work. I remember my first project was to work on a borehole and also the cheese palace for cultural heritage purposes and all those things. I mean, it really helped shape my mindset, because I really wanted to make change in the community that we were working in. And that's how come I started my career. So working in these communities, I had a visit from a Dutch NGO, international NGO called the Solidarity West Africa. So they came across my area and they were like, there's a young man here, he's just 25, 24 years. He's doing marvelous work in the bush there. And I remember that at that time I was living in a madhouse in the village, trying to work with the community and inspire people, let them know that there can be techniques that can be done well. So for 2 years from that place, I was pushed by the Dutch. So I was moved to Accra, big city, village boy getting to the city. It wasn't easy, but it's one of those things. And my assignment was to look at how I can translate what I've been doing right in the village close to Oboase, to try and then help artisanal mines in Ghana to mine responsibly and safely, and then to work with the environment standards that we live in. And I worked with Solidarity for about 5 years, and we're making big change in communities. Wow. I work with about more than 5,000 artisanal mines. Most of them, 3,000 were women. We're looking at their sexual reproductive health, looking at community development and all those things around mining areas. I did this for quite some time, and it was inspiring, because when you get down to the people, you get to realize that, you get to know their real need. You get to see how, even as a young man, you can contribute to change globally. I remember we did some work on mercury, And some studies show that mercury was affecting pregnant women, the mental health of other people, and all those things. We had to go in, and then I remember we pushed so much for what we call the green gold, where we get the gold, we don't destroy the environment, and the women were also safe. These are some of the changes that we made in these communities that I never forget. And I remember living there. I left a mark in most of these communities. They call me the captain. And when I get there, they shout, "Captain! Captain!" And then I respond. It's something that I always encourage the youth, that whilst you are going, you should be able to inspire people. You should be able to leave a mark in people. Any little thing that you are doing, you should be able to make sure that when you are not there, people are able to mention your name and track it. Yeah. So that's the story. And then after leaving Solidarity, I worked with the World University Service of Canada.
Okay.
As the project coordinator, I was pushed by the Canadians then again from the Dutch.
Wow. Very inspiring story.
Yeah, and I remember when I went there, I was just about 28, 27 years, and I was coordinator for the program. And the World University Service of Canada, we're working on the wages program, West African Governance and Economic Sustainability. So we're working in Guinea, Burkina, and in Ghana.
Okay.
And I remember when I was introduced, they were like, "There's a coordinator coming." People thought it was a big man coming, because most people there were anticipating, "Who is this guy coming in?" Okay. And I went there in my sneakers and my jeans, and I was like, "So this is our new boss." But it was still inspiring. In that project, what we did was to look at how mining companies are able to support the community that they work in.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting topic. I would love to hear more. Yeah.
So because I come from a mining community from Obuasi. I was born and bred here. My parents work in the mine, my grandparents work in the mine. But anytime you go outside, people talk negative stuff about the mining and how it influences the community. So my assignment with the World University Service of Canada was to look at all these communities and see how they can get the real benefit from mining, from the supply chain to the localization policy and all those.
And what do you think are some of the disadvantages of some of those mining impacts in the communities?
So basically, from my experience, from the small scale sector, it's just a lack of knowledge. Most people are like somebody mentioned, when I'm in Cape Coast and I'm going to the sea, I don't need any license. I go to the sea and I fish. Why can I be in a mining community and when I'm getting boat, I have to go and get certifications? So it's the mindset and an understanding of the sector that we work in. So you have to do a lot of education. And then the places that we were able to do education, you realize that the mindset changed. The use of illicit drugs was stopped because they know the effect. The working with the environment and also the supply chain, everything was free. And if you come to the large scale sector, these are multinational companies. And I must be frank, when multinational companies come and then they work, we as citizens should be able to maximize our participation. And that is what sparks our interest. Because there's somebody coming in, there's an investor coming in with a business interest to say that I'm mining in the X community. I want to get this amount to go to my stakeholders or my investors. Okay. Are we in the community? How are we making ourselves attractive for the mining company? So there's a story when I was working with the wages project, where in a mining company they had to import poultry like chicken over $2 million almost every month.
For what?
For chicken for the staff.
Oh my God! Okay.
So we went to there, and there was a young man who had a poultry farm. We said, "See, this $2 million can stay in your community if you're able to take advantage of the supply chain of the mines, and we have to build the capacity." And then that capacity building bit and how we link, the mining and this localization policy and also, participation. has always been a challenge for we in Africa.
Mm.
We need to do more. As much as we want to explore the mineral is something that can easily go away. I mean, it's happened in Obuasi before when the mine went down, economy collapsed. So I always encourage that, in these areas, we're able to link up, get the participation, get into the supply chain, make sure that anything that these mining companies need in our community, we have them. And that is how the money stays in the community or in the country.
Okay, so how do you think individuals within communities can enhance that direct relationship with the mining company, apart from knowledge and apart from getting the services the companies need?
So basically, what individuals can do, I always tell the youth, you have to be prepared for the opportunity. And I'll link it to my career coming back to Obuasi to work with AngloGold Ashanti, for instance. So doing all this experience has building myself as a young man. And when I finished the World University Service of Canada, we were working on the project, and there was the Socioeconomic Development Superintendent, which is a huge role in Obuasi in terms of diversification of the economy and how the mine sets its standard. I was ready because I had prepared myself. I've shelved indoors and then done a lot of research, a lot of studies. And then when the opportunity came, I didn't even say that I'm from here. Okay. But they said, wow, are you from here?
Okay.
And it's because you've prepared yourself so well, so well that you're able to maximize your participation. And I tell the youth that the best thing you can do is to prepare for opportunities. And that is what is lacking in most of our communities. Okay. You see young people, they would want to work in a mine, get in the supply chain, take an advantage, but they are not prepared enough. And the preparation starts with you. Yeah. I mean, thinking about what you can give, the value you can add. Yeah. If you don't have that trend, like to know that if I call you up for an interview and you're going to tell me your value, what you can add, what exceptional additions you are bringing on board, then it becomes very difficult for anybody to hire you or give you this business. Okay. So I try to talk to communities within the mining areas to say, look at opportunities, take a critical look at the opportunities, don't rush, and in those opportunities you can always find a way to be able to know. And then the last thing is it comes back to knowledge, reading the mining laws. Most people in these communities that I've worked in don't even know the mining laws. Wow. And then it comes to land compensation, land take, and all those things. I mean, they are naive about it, and that's one of the areas that over the years I've tried to work on with projects and then companies and other people to see how we can give knowledge about the mining sector to the ordinary Ghanaian or the ordinary African to know that these are the laws, these are the regulations. So if you ask me, I mean, those are the small gaps, probably the best. And then we can move forward as a nation and as a continent.
Okay, I think that's very beautiful. Now to the audience, I heard Mr. Bentum very well. As youth, you should be prepared for opportunities and get ready to seize those opportunities as they come along the way. Now we want to hear from Mr. Bentum. Were there any disappointments along the way in terms of recipients of the community or the partnership between the mining organizations and the communities? Do you mind sharing with us any disappointments you faced?
I mean, there's a lot. During my experience, right from the ASM sector, delving into the NGO sector, as I mentioned, it's all based on knowledge. You get to a point, the community don't know the laws, the mining companies or the organization know the laws, and it becomes a back and forth. Even with the governance around some of the payments or the money that they are given to the community, the governance around it tends to be, because people want to be selfish, they get there's a governance around it, how to spend this money. People are not obeying those things. So there was a lot of challenge. I remember the most famous one was the one around the time called Bondi. Okay. So we did an analysis there, and the women who wanted economic growth were asking for a market.
Okay.
So people sell because it's an agriculture area, and then when they produce, they want people to come around and then pick it up. And the youth said no, they wanted a football pitch.
Football pitch against agricultural improvements. Wow.
And we wanted to have a modern market. We supply or work with the women to do a lot of vegetables and stuff. They come to the market, and within that enclave, these women will be able to sell because there's a big trust. The youth said no, they want a football pitch. And then at that time, that company was torn between the youth who can rebel violently against them and the women who complain in the market and gossip.
So I'm interested, which one did they go for?
So the approach was to have to work with the two. I remember working with the youth and then with the women separately. And I brought them together in a group. So the plan that we did was to look at how we set up a multi-purpose market. So the market activation starts on Thursday, and then ends on Saturday. And so there was a football pitch with market stores. So anytime the market stores are on the left and the football pitch is on the right. Yeah. So when there's market day, everybody is able to sell their stuff on the pitch. And then when market day goes off, nobody sells. They put their stores and the pitch is utilized for the youth. And that was how some of the challenges clearly you face in mining communities, because the priorities are different.
Wow.
We do a lot of focused group discussions. So we meet the men, we meet the aged, we meet the youth, we meet the women, we talk to them and understand their needs. And then once we understand their needs, we bring all of them together and then we look at them. But it's always about the story. Get them convinced. You have to get experiences from elsewhere, whether abroad, whether in country or elsewhere. You should be able to let them understand the impact that has happened somewhere, and then how it turned out. And when I remember when I talked to you, I'm like, your mom is he was radical. I'm like, your mom sells potatoes.
Okay.
So would you want to pack more than your mom's potatoes, because your mom has been selling these potatoes and then has been paying your school fees. So all those things comes in. They play the mind game, they play, and all those things. You put them together and then you have an excellent tailor. So there's nothing like an all-fit-all for the industry, but I'm hoping probably during our time, the contribution that we are all making, being the CSOs, the mining companies, the communities, the traditional leadership, will be able to make a difference in our communities.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too, and more impact within communities. So do you mind sharing with us, when did you start this particular, should I say, environmental justice in your community? When, at what age?
So probably I was about 20. So when I was in school, I would come and do this attachment and stuff. And I was reading human resource. It had nothing to do with
mining.
But I remember Daddy would come home. Daddy used to work with AngloGold those times. Then he would come home with a brochure about safety and environment. And even what he does, that you can't sit in Daddy's car or a bus and don't put on seatbelt. Yeah, so it's a mindset that had been, the discipline had gone on right from my childhood. So when I was like in the 20s, I was starting for attachment and I started my work with the ASM around 25 years. That was the stake.
Okay.
How do we get societal justice, environmental justice? How do we contribute to climate change? I remember the first time I mentioned climate change to my colleagues. That was almost 10 years ago. Like everybody was looking at climate change. They were asking me if I'm a weather forecast now.
Wonderful.
And I was trying. I was telling them, you have to use the internet positively.
Yeah.
One of the best things that has happened to me is, during our generation, access to internet. Everything I learned, photography, looking at the environment, environmental plan, everything I learned online, self-tutoring. So with this, I applied it to every work that I do, to make sure no matter what work, even if I'm cooking, I'm thinking about the environment. What material am I using? How am I disposing of my waste? How is it going to affect climate in the next 10 years?
Okay.
And this has really helped me. And then, the best part is that I've been able to change lives, influence lives, and also influence even policy.
Okay.
Yes, at the governmental level. I remember we worked on the MMDF regulations when I was young. When I was with the World University Systems of Canada, we were working on the Mining Development Fund, how it will be utilized. We were pushing for green projects that would be able to be economical, but is still green. And this is what we are looking at as a global citizen. We're looking at a place that will be able to have all the economic gains, but not at the expense of the environment.
Yeah. Now let me chip this in. Usually there's a story around chiefs and mining communities. They would say that, okay, the mining communities will give, or the mining industries will give the money to the chiefs to bring about developmental projects. However, the chiefs pocket the money. What do you think about that particular story?
So in Ghana, it has changed a lot. I mean, there's the Mineral Development Act. And if you come to my region, for instance, I serve on the community scheme, Mineral Development Community Scheme, and it's different. I mean, there's a law, there's a governance, there's a regulation. As I mentioned earlier, I personally work on the regulations for government. Look at how we're able to distribute the funds and how it is utilized. So now, when it comes, there's something for the stool because of the heritage around it, and then the land ownership. How land in Ghana works, but a chunk of the money gets to the central government, some come to local government, and even some come to the local committees and development committees. And these committees are supposed to really work on how they can improve socioeconomic development in areas like where I come from. So in Ghana, I mean, we are far advanced. We have worked closely with the African Mining Vision. Which documents and then gives us what mining is supposed to be in Africa, and especially in Ghana. And we have been able to combine all these things, modernize it into regulations and laws. So it's a bit different from what it used to be in the past, where we would see all the monies would go to traditional leaders. Now, the chunk of the money even goes to the central government. And then some goes to it goes to the central government, for instance. Some go into research, because of the mining. The mining universities have legacy projects and all that. So it's now regulated, and we are hoping that in the future, most of these funds would translate into meaningful. You come to a mining town, and you will really have to have a feel of it, that there's been mining here for over 100 years.
Wow.
And it will take time. Based on these regulations and stuff.
I can imagine. I can imagine. So now let me chip in this particular question. Usually in mining communities, there's also this particular story of illegal mining, or something we call galamsey. How is the big mining companies like AngloGold Ashanti, Goldfields Ghana Limited, how are they bridging this galamsey within communities and the effect of those galamsey on the communities? Do you mind sharing?
I mean, I have worked with ASM mines, small scale mines. And most of these people are people who are not formalized, and they have to work. As I mentioned earlier, the gap has always been the education. And it's not like somebody wants to get into a hole or get into a place that he will get trapped. He doesn't have any idea about it. He knows that wherever he goes, there will be something for him. I remember a colleague interviewed one illegal miner, and they asked, "Why do you have to go here?" He said, "I have this son who has this chronic disease. I have to provide this funds almost every week." And then we all tearing up. It was okay. You can do the same, but these are the guidelines that you will be able to work. So most of the mining companies, big mining companies, look at how they can help formalize activities around.
Galamsey.
All galamsey.
Okay.
And as a result of that, some are protected with their concession. And I mean, not some, most of them. You see like tightening security systems, like drones, like cameras, like the police, the military coming in because they have a specific boundary that they operate in. But what has been going on in the country is the community mining approach, which the government has introduced, such that in most of these mining communities, government itself can work with mining companies to seed off concessions. So part of the concession. So where I work currently, we've seeded off over 60% of our concession, and then it's looking at how government can utilize these concessions to work with these illegal miners and then formalize them into artisanal mines, registered artisanal mines.
Okay.
Most of these companies around the globe are ready to be able to support people, community members to formalize their activities. Because remember, in all mining companies, safety is the first value.
Yeah.
And if you are not practicing anything safe to your personal body and also to the environment, then it's difficult for us to mining companies to invest.
Well, when you spoke about seeded, do you mean the mining companies buy those concessions or land areas?
Oh, they are released.
Okay.
So probably most of the mining companies government has this mining regulation that is look at your mining area. So you declare your mining area, and then once for instance, the company that I work with has released about 70% of their concession because that is their focus, and they're given to government. And then these illegal miners or small scale miners are supposed to come together, form a team, formalize, and they're able to access it through government.
Wow.
And these are the things that I feel that the youth can take advantage of, because I always say that my first job wherever was with small scale mining. That was my first job.
Okay.
And that's what gave me the chance to be sitting here with you. And when I entered, it was about influencing and making it the best. And not doing just for the economic gains. Most of these people would want to go for the economic gains at the expense of the environment.
That's true.
So you exhaust all your options and then legal charges. But if you need to modernize your activities, work safely, work with the environment, work with all the stakeholders to understand the situation, you even get what we call the fair mine or fair trade standard certification, where Europeans would buy the gold with premium. I'll share a couple of my documentaries with you guys on the ASM journey, and I'm sure to inspire a lot of youth in Africa.
Yeah, I think that's very, very inspiring.
Mining in a very positive way.
Yeah, that's very, very inspiring to hear. Fellow viewers, today we are in the studio with Dr. Bentum, and he's talking to us about how he's doing inspirational works, merging mining and community inclusion, and how he's able to bring about economic development within those communities. So now, just another 2 questions before we let you go today. A particular LinkedIn post described you as passionate and authentic. How are you able to make this name follow you?
So with passion, everything I do, even me speaking with you, I'm passionate about this because I want to see. And every little thing I do, every little thing, from my sleep to what I write, I'm looking for a change.
Okay.
And that's how I want that, like, how people or the youth be passionate about whatever they do.
Okay.
Passion drives excellence. Passion drives efficiency. Because you would want to be associated with a particular cause, you are so much into it, you give it all your time, you want excellence out of it, you want efficiency out of it, and that's what has been driving me. And that particular post, I was working in the market with market women who were supposed to do a cleanup exercise, and then I got there in a very beautiful car, of course. And the woman was like, "Hey, boss, no, like that's the boss." And I immediately went there. I took the brush, the broom. I took the wheelbarrow. I started cleaning the gutters.
Wow.
Every stuff inside, and then people were taking pictures. And somebody asked, "Oh, boss, you know what I mean, child?" So I get out and they take a picture. And I realized that, I mean, people were passionate about it because they looked at it as very influential. And people who were, even the market women, the market, or everybody who knew who I was, started cleaning their area.
Yeah.
Just because I was cleaning. And that's how, I mean, sometimes I describe my leadership style as the charismatic style of leadership.
Okay.
So you put yourself in the action, and then you let the action talk to the people. So
Wow.
if you, the leader, doing what, I mean, nobody will even do.
Yeah.
I mean, they would want to do that themselves. And I've been getting messages elsewhere. People want to just clean their area because they know that probably I'll pass by, and when I see, I wouldn't be happy. And this is the kind of influence we want to create in our society and also in the world.
Yeah, that's very inspiring to hear. And now a final question to you, Mr. Bentum. What Africa would you like to see?
I want to see an Africa where the youth leads.
Okay.
I'm a Pan-Africanist, and you would anything here on the media, you realize that we have key leadership challenges, and we want to see a place that the youth is driving innovation, driving excellence. And I feel that as a continent which has the most youth population in the world, we are supposed to create that change.
Yeah,
we are supposed to make sure that everything that we do, I mean, people will envy us. We have the biggest labor force.
That's true.
And apart from everything, we are very traditional. And with our traditional skills, we come together as one. We will see an Africa that leads the world, as has been done centuries before us.
Yeah. Wow. Can you imagine mining and development? I am looking forward to seeing how that goes in the future. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Bentum. That was an inspirational episode with Mr. Daniel Bentum on how he's able to merge the gap between community development and mining. From a young age of 22, he tapped into artisanal mining, improved himself, seized opportunities, and today he is where he is. Guys, he said it all. Youth, you have to be an exceptional leader. Develop yourself and tap into opportunities. This was an inspiring episode on leaders within communities. Guys, don't forget to subscribe to all our social media channels. It's displayed on the screen. And do well to follow us. And leave a very interesting comment. It was your host and favorite one, Betty Osei Bunsu. See you on our next episode.